So I've been trying to think about how to present this idea. It is an idea that might cast me here as a madman, I suppose, and that might be right. But it's a very challenging topic to discuss if there's any legitimacy to it. So it involves a lot of the previous theory work that I've done. So without understanding that, it might be a bit hard to understand where I'm going with this. But there's this idea called the golden teeth. My theory is, in essence, that there's a fractal pattern going on in development, and that in essence, if you look at it from a body perspective, we start in the lower areas and we move upwards, and when we get to the top of our head, we cycle back to the bottom in a higher and higher energetic way. So each fractal, each pattern we go through, we come through the process with more complexity. And as Stuart Davis says, the higher up the ladder you go, the more the ladder sways. So with that complexity comes more of a juggling act, and more likely the balls could fall. So there's reason why I think people stop at certain developmental switch points, particularly up in the head, because in many respects it's the safest in some regards. If you keep trying to move, what I call the ever-moving primary focus, you're juggling a lot, and you continue to juggle more. The golden teeth is a concept and an actual experiential reality, I believe, that comes online in what would be considered the sixth tier of the fifth stage of the sixth tier. And when I say sixth tier, it's in spiral dynamics, there's notions of tiers, and that's really the second tier. So that sounds outrageous when I say that. The second tier arguably emerged in its very early way in the 1930s. But the thing about this is we're in exponential territory, arguably, and so the compounding effect of biopsychosocial conditions allow for changes technologically, sociologically, psychologically, to happen much faster than they've ever happened before. So I'm positing that we might in fact be in something called the arc, which is my previous video, where there is this potentiality for ever-moving primary focus. The notion of consolidation periods, although they're still present, are overlaid simultaneously with a sort of sense of continual change. So this sixth system, sixth tier, fifth system, would be focused, in my opinion, on the throat and the mouth. And what that really talks about, what it's addressing, is speaking into existence, as it were. The idea here is that we're creating space for something I call interbeing, where you are to some important degree yourself and simultaneously other at the same time. You have your own experiential realities, but to an important degree you're starting to be able to step into the presence of another. There's a lot of question marks as to the ethical nature of this, especially when people won't believe you about the realities of this. And so you can't easily just say to somebody, can I interbeing with you? Unless you're a lover or something. And so it's I personally have found it challenging because I think it's important to develop this, to expand this, to make it more exact and so forth, because it's a echoing from the future, an echoing something from the future. Anyways, when we get into the mouth, I believe you can actually start to feel fairly physically the existence of the other. Like you feel their teeth, you feel their mouth, and then it's like into their stomach a little bit. Although, for most people, including myself, actually having felt sense awareness into the upper throat and lower throat it's nearly an impossibility, but you can extend it. And the goal that I have generally is to keep it awareness all the way down to about there, in this sort of meditative state. The next system, and I have not, in fact, the golden teeth seem to come with it some other things that are, again, highly questionable, but it's as though potentially there is a sense of a living lucid dream. Of course you can't fly, these sorts of boundaries exist, but it is though the interior world and the exterior world, what I call wonderland, emerges. And that is to say that there is a synchrony, kind of constant flow of synchronicity, of interiority and exteriority. Again, I'm not in that space at present, and it's highly dangerous in that easily prone to psychological breakdowns, from my experience. In that condition, you can just imagine a situation in which, the grandiosity of your thinking seems to overlay, and you can easily bloat your ego to infinite proportions. So, highly, if you are practicing this complexification process, try to maintain, I think, that there's something higher than yourself, even in those contexts, that God or something, a being bigger than you, exists. The next system, if it does emerge, is the brain. And so that, in other words, would be like reverse engineering interbeing of others' brain. Non-dualism in a certain sense of, kind of the lived-in experience of yourself and others simultaneously. So that's really kind of a high-level talk, and, of course, keep your skeptical cap upon your head at all times here. Be well.